The massive chamber stretched beyond what human eyes could easily see. Thousands of seats filled the circular hall, each one holding a representative from a different world. The air smelled strange, a mix of different atmospheres that the life support systems worked hard to balance. Some beings breathed oxygen like humans. Others needed methane or sulfur compounds. The technology kept everyone alive, but it could not hide the tension in the room. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat in the human section, his dark suit looking plain next to the colorful robes and metal armor worn by other delegates. He had been doing this job for 15 years. His hair was starting to turn gray at the temples, and his face showed the weight of countless diplomatic meetings. Today felt different, though. Today felt dangerous. 3 seats away sat Elder Taemin Park. At 72 years old, he was the most experienced human diplomat in the galaxy. His hands were folded in his lap, but Hyunwoo could see the tension in his shoulders. Taemin had served in these chambers for 40 years. He had seen the galaxy change, had watched new species join the council and old ones fade away. Right. Now his weathered face showed worry. Behind them in the observer section sat Ji-ho Lee. He was only 28, but his military training showed in the way he sat straight and alert. His sharp eyes moved constantly, watching the alien delegates, studying their body language and listening to their translated words. As military attaché, his job was to report back to Earth about potential threats. Today, he was seeing plenty of them. The session had been going on for 6 hours. The main speakers were the Vrex and the Netherians, 2 of the most powerful species in the council. The Vrex looked like giant insects, with hard shells that gleamed under the chamber lights. Their leader, General Crix, clicked his mandibles as he spoke. The translation came through clear and cold. "The human territories are too large for such a small population," General Crix was saying. "They control 17 star systems but have colonies in only 9 of them. This is wasteful. Other species need those resources." The Netherian representative agreed. The Netherians were made of living crystal, their bodies reflecting light, in rainbow patterns as they moved. When they spoke, their voices sounded like wind chimes. "The humans have had these territories for over a century," the Netherian said. "They have done nothing with most of them. We propose redistribution for the greater good of the galaxy." Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. Redistribution meant taking human worlds and giving them to other species. He raised his hand to speak, but the council moderator ignored him. The moderator was a Zenthi, a slug-like creature that floated in a tank of green liquid. The Zenthi had been in charge of council sessions for decades and usually tried to be fair. Today, it seemed like fairness was not on the agenda. "The human delegate will have his chance to speak," the moderator gurgled. "First, we must hear all proposals." More species joined the discussion. The Corvin delegation, tall beings with 4 arms and blue skin, supported taking 3 human systems. The Yilani, who looked like walking trees, wanted the agricultural worlds that humans had terraformed over generations. One by one, they carved up human space like it was a meal to be shared. Ji-ho Lee leaned forward and whispered to Elder Taemin, "Sir, they are talking about taking New Busan, New Seoul, and even the mining worlds near Tau Ceti. That is half our population." Taemin nodded slowly. His face remained calm, but his knuckles were white where he gripped his chair. "I know, son. I have been watching this build for months." In the far corner of the chamber, in seats that were older than any others, sat the Keepers. They were the most ancient species in known space, reptilian beings who had been traveling between stars when most other races were still learning to make fire. They rarely spoke in council sessions, preferring to watch and listen, but today, their representative stood up. The chamber fell silent. When a Keeper chose to speak, everyone listened. The Keeper was tall and thin, with scales that had turned silver with age. Its yellow eyes swept across the chamber before it began to speak. Its voice was deep and carried the weight of centuries. "Young races," the Keeper said, each word carefully chosen. "You make the same mistake that others have made before you. You see humans and think you understand them. You see their peace and mistake it for weakness. You see their cooperation and think it means they cannot fight." General Crix clicked his mandibles in annoyance. The keepers speak in riddles as always. Humans have no warrior tradition. They have no great fleets. They solve problems with words and trade agreements. They are soft. The keeper's head turned toward the Vrex general. For a moment something flickered in those ancient eyes. It might have been pity. I am 800 years old, the keeper said. I have watched 17 species rise to power in this galaxy. I have seen 12 of them fall. Do you know what they all had in common? They all made the same mistake you are about to make. The Netherian representative chimed softly. And what mistake is that, honored elder? They gave humans a reason to fight. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates laughed. Others argued. The Corvin delegation leader waved his forearms dismissively. Humans have been peaceful for over a century. They have never shown aggression toward any council member. This is fear-mongering from the old ones. The keeper remained standing, waiting for the noise to die down. When it was quiet again, it continued. Young General Crix, you say humans have no warrior tradition? Have you studied their history? Have you read about their wars before they reached the stars? They fought with stones and sticks, then with metal and fire, then with machines that could destroy entire cities. They fought each other for thousands of years, learning and adapting and becoming more dangerous with each generation. That was long ago, General Crix replied. They are different now. Civilized. Yes, the keeper agreed. They chose to become civilized. They chose peace. But choice can be changed. And when humans choose war, they do not fight like the rest of us. They do not fight for honor or territory or resources. They fight to win, completely and forever. Elder Taimin stood up slowly. The chamber grew quiet again. Everyone knew the old human diplomat respected him even if they did not always agree with him. Honored delegates, Taimin said, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I have served in this chamber for 40 years. I have negotiated treaties, prevented conflicts, and helped build the peace we all enjoy. I have never asked for much. Humans have never asked for much. We trade fairly, we share our discoveries, we help when disasters strike other worlds. He paused, looking around the chamber at faces and forms from dozens of different worlds. But what you propose today is not negotiation. It is theft. You want to take worlds that humans have lived on for generations, planets we have terraformed, and cities we have built. You want to give them away because you think we are too weak to stop you. The chamber was completely silent now. I am an old man, Taimin continued. I have spent my life believing that reason and kindness could solve any problem. Today you are testing that belief. He sat down. The vote was called immediately. 847 delegates voted to redistribute human territories. 12 voted against it. The council's decision was final. As the session ended and delegates began to file out, the keeper approached the human section. It looked down at Elder Taimin with those ancient yellow eyes. I am sorry, old friend, the keeper said quietly. We tried to warn them. Taimin looked up at the ancient being. What happens now? Now, the keeper replied. They learn why we warned them to never give humans a reason to fight. 3 hours later, Jiho Lee sent an encrypted message to Earth. It contained only 4 words. The die is cast. Across human space, people began to receive the news. On orbital stations and colony worlds, in mining facilities and research centers, humans learned that their government had tried diplomacy and failed. They learned that other species saw their peace as weakness and their kindness as an invitation to take what they wanted. In her laboratory on Research Station Kepler, Dr. Sujin Cho read the message 3 times before her hands began to shake. Her home colony of New Busan was on the list of worlds to be redistributed. The place where she had been born, where her parents still lived, where her brother ran a small farm, would be given to strangers who saw humans as obstacles to be removed. She looked at her computer screen, at the alien ship designs she had been studying for peaceful research purposes. Suddenly, she was seeing them with different eyes. She was seeing weaknesses. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that the keepers had tried to teach them. But some lessons can only be learned through pain. The news traveled faster than light itself through the human communication networks. Every colony, every space station, every mining outpost received the same message within hours. The Galactic Council had voted. Human worlds would be redistributed to other species within 6 months. Minho Jung was eating breakfast in his office on the colony world of Haven when his communication device started buzzing. As the colonial administrator, he usually got messages throughout the day. But this was different. His device showed 47 incoming calls, all marked urgent. Minho was 53 years old and had spent 20 years in the Earth military before becoming a colonial administrator. His gray hair was cut short, and his weathered hands showed the scars of old battles fought long before humans reached the stars. He had been hoping to spend his remaining years in peace, helping colonists build better lives. The first call came from his old friend Captain Song on New Jeju. Song's voice was tight with anger. "Minho, have you seen the news? They want to take New Jeju and give it to the Corvin. My people have been here for 60 years. We built this place from nothing." The second call was from New Daegu, then New Incheon, then the mining worlds near Wolf 359. All the same story, all the same rage. Minho stood at his window and looked out at the city below. Haven had started as a small settlement 30 years ago. Now it was home to 500,000 people. There were schools and hospitals, parks where children played, farms that fed the growing population. His people had built all of this with their own hands. His communication device buzzed again. This time it was from Earth. The message was short and came from someone he had not heard from in 15 years. Ji-Ho Lee, now apparently a military attaché to the Galactic Council. "Minho, old friend, we need to talk. Encrypted Channel 7. Tonight at 2100 hours. Across the galaxy, Captain Yoonji Nam was having the worst day of her cargo hauling career. Her ship, the Morning Star, was loaded with medical supplies bound for the colony world of New Sokcho. It should have been a routine 3-day journey, through space that had been safe for decades. Instead, she found herself staring at alien warships. Yoonji was 31 years old and had been running cargo between human worlds for 8 years. She knew every safe route, every trading post, every refueling station in human space. She had never needed weapons on her ship because human space was peaceful. Pirates were rare, and most problems could be solved with words or a small bribe. The ships blocking her path were Vrex cruisers. 3 of them, each one 10 times bigger than her small cargo vessel. Their hulls were dark green and covered with weapon ports that looked like the eyes of giant insects. "Human vessel," came the transmission. The translation made the Vrex voice sound cold and mechanical. "You are trespassing in restricted space. Turn back immediately." Yoonji checked her navigation computer twice. According to every map she had, this was still human space. The star system belonged to the colony world of New Sokcho, and she had been flying this route for 3 years. "Vrex vessels," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "This is the commercial shipping lane to New Sokcho. I have proper clearance and manifest for medical supply delivery." "The territory redistribution has begun early," the Vrex commander replied. "This system now falls under Vrex protection. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Yoonji felt cold fear run down her spine. The council vote had been only 2 days ago. The redistribution was supposed to take 6 months. But the alien fleets were already moving, already claiming human worlds. She turned her ship around and flew away as fast as her engines could carry her. Behind her, the Vrex ships moved toward New Sokcho like predators closing in on prey. That night, Minho Jung sat in his secure office and connected to encrypted Channel 7. Ji-Ho Lee's face appeared on his screen, and Minho was shocked by what he saw. The young military attaché looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. His eyes were hard, and his mouth was set in a grim line. "They're not waiting," Ji-Ho said, without greeting. "Alien fleets are already moving toward human worlds. They're claiming advanced positioning rights." "How many fleets?" Minho asked. 17 that we know of. Maybe more. The Vrex have sent battle groups to 5 systems. The Corvin are moving on 3 worlds. Even the smaller species are grabbing what they can. Minho felt something cold settle in his stomach. What does Earth Command say? Earth Command is still trying to file diplomatic protests, Jiho replied. They want to negotiate. They think this is all a misunderstanding that can be fixed with the right paperwork. And what do you think? Jiho was quiet for a long moment. I think the time for diplomacy is over. I think they've made their choice, and now we have to make ours. Minho nodded slowly. What do you need from me? I need you to make some calls to people we used to serve with. People who remember what we learned in the old days, before we became peaceful colonists and administrators. The old networks? Minho said. It was not a question. Yes, we're going to need every soldier, every engineer, every pilot who remembers how to fight, and we're going to need them fast. Meanwhile, Elder Tae-min Park was making his own journey across the galaxy. At 72, he was too old for this kind of travel, but he felt he had to try one more time. If there was any chance to avoid what was coming, he had to take it. His first stop was the Vrex homeworld. The planet was hot and humid with towering, hive cities that stretched up toward the red sky. General Crix received him in a chamber that smelled of sulfur and rotting meat. The Vrex general's insect eyes glittered with amusement. The old human comes to beg. General Crix clicked his mandibles. How interesting. Do you have an offer for us, Elder Park? I have a warning, Tae-min replied calmly. You are making a mistake that will cost more than you can imagine. The only mistake was allowing humans to hold so much territory for so long, the general replied. Your species will learn its place. You are soft. You have no warrior tradition. You solve problems with words and trade agreements. Tae-min stood to leave. General, I have studied the history of every species in the galaxy. Do you know how many times someone has called humans soft and lived to regret it? No, General Crix replied. How many? All of them, Tae-min said quietly, and walked away. His next stop was the Netherian crystal cities on their homeworld of bright light and singing stones. The Netherian Council received him in a chamber that sparkled like the inside of a diamond. Their leader spoke in musical tones that the translator turned into words. Elder Park, we did not expect you to travel so far for a simple matter of territorial adjustment. There is nothing simple about taking people's homes, Tae-min replied. The humans on those worlds have lived there for generations. They have built cities, raised families, made those planets into homes. They will be compensated, the Netherian leader chimed. They can relocate to remaining human territories. And if they refuse? The musical tones turned cold. Then they will learn to adapt or be removed. The council has voted. The matter is decided. Tae-min left the crystal world with a heavy heart. His final stop was the Corvan homeworld, where the four-armed blue giants ruled from cities that floated in their planet's thick atmosphere. The reception was the same. Polite words that meant nothing, casual dismissal of human concerns, and the absolute certainty that humans were too weak to resist. On his long journey home, Tae-min sent a message to Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim. I tried, old friend. They will not listen. They see our peace as weakness and our restraint as fear. I fear we have no choice left but to show them what we really are. Back on Haven, Min Ho-jung finished his last call of the night. He had contacted 47 people in the past 6 hours. Former soldiers, retired officers, engineers who had once built weapons instead of farms, pilots who had flown fighters instead of cargo ships. Every single one had said yes. His communication device buzzed one more time. The message was from Captain Yoonji Nam, and it was marked urgent. Administrator Young, this is Captain Nam of the cargo ship Morningstar. I was fired upon today by Vrex vessels in what should have been human space. My ship was damaged, but I escaped. The aliens are not waiting for 6 months. They are taking our worlds now. Whatever you are planning, please hurry. Our people need help. Min Ho looked out his window at the city below. In 6 months, maybe less, alien ships would be in orbit above Haven. They would land troops and tell his people to leave the homes they had built with their own hands. He opened a new communication channel and began typing a message that would go out on the old military networks, the hidden channels that connected humans across the galaxy who remembered how to fight. The message was simple. The time has come. Activate all networks. Begin preparations. Humanity will not go quietly into the night. Within hours, that message reached thousands of humans on hundreds of worlds. Former soldiers checked weapons they had hoped never to use again. Engineers began drawing plans for machines they had thought they would never need to build. Pilots calculated flight paths to targets they had never expected to attack. The sleeping giant was beginning to stir, and the galaxy was about to learn why the Keepers had tried to warn them. 3 weeks after the Galactic Council's vote, the transformation began in earnest. What had started as quiet conversations on encrypted channels became something that amazed even the humans themselves. Across hundreds of worlds, an entire species was remembering how to wage war. Minho Jung stood in what used to be Haven's main industrial complex. The factories that once produced farming equipment and construction materials now hummed with a different purpose. Workers who had been building tractors last month were now assembling weapons that could punch through alien armor. The air smelled of hot metal and determination. "Show me the conversion rates," Minho told his chief engineer, a woman named Yun Ah, who had once designed weapons for the Earth military before becoming a peaceful colonial engineer. "We can convert 60% of our mining equipment into mobile weapons platforms," Yun Ah reported. "The asteroid mining ships are perfect. They already have heavy-duty hulls and powerful engines. We just need to add weapons and better shields." Minho nodded. Across human space, the same conversation was happening on every world. Mining ships became warships, cargo haulers became troop transports. Even civilian pleasure craft were being fitted with whatever weapons could be found or built. The speed of the change shocked everyone, including the humans doing it. Species that had known peace for generations usually took years to prepare for war. Humans were doing it in weeks. The orbital research station above New Seoul, Dr. Sujin Cho had not slept for 3 days. Her laboratory was filled with data screens showing alien ship designs, weapon specifications, and tactical reports. What had started as peaceful scientific research had become something much more focused. "Computer, show me the VRX cruiser shield." "Frequency analysis again," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. The holographic display showed a detailed breakdown of how VRX shields worked. Sujin had been studying alien technology for years, trying to understand how different species solved engineering problems. Now she was looking for weaknesses. "There," she whispered, pointing at a section of the display. "The shield generators have a rotation cycle every 47 seconds. For 0.3 seconds, there's a gap in the rear quarter coverage." She began typing rapidly, sending her findings to military commanders across human space. 0.3 seconds was not much time, but it was enough for a precisely aimed shot to get through. Her communication device buzzed. The message was from Jiho Lee, who had become the unofficial coordinator of human military efforts. "Dr. Cho, your analysis of the Corvin fleet movements was perfect. We know exactly when they'll arrive at New Busan now. Can you find similar patterns for the other species?" Sujin smiled grimly. "Already working on it. Send me any new tactical data you get." Meanwhile, Jiho Lee sat in a command center that had been built in secret beneath the surface of the moon. The facility had been constructed over decades as an emergency backup for Earth's government. Now it hummed with activity as it became the central nervous system of humanity's war effort. The main display showed the positions of human and alien fleets across the galaxy. Red dots marked enemy forces moving toward human worlds. Blue dots showed human defensive positions. What worried Jiho was how many red dots there were and how few blue ones. "Status report," he called out. "Vrex battle fleet approaching New Seoul," reported Lieutenant Commander Hana, a young officer who had been managing civilian shipping routes a month ago. "Estimated arrival in 6 days. They have 12 heavy cruisers and 40 escort ships." "Our forces?" "New Seoul has converted 8 mining ships and 23 cargo haulers, plus whatever planetary defenses the colonists have built." Jiho did the math quickly. 52 enemy ships against 31 human vessels, most of which had been civilian craft until recently. On paper, it looked like a massacre waiting to happen. But Jiho was beginning to understand something that the aliens did not. Humans did not fight the way other species fought. Captain Yoonji Nam learned this lesson firsthand when she volunteered to lead a convoy of converted cargo ships in a raid on a Vrek supply base. Her ship, the Morning Star, now carried enough weapons to destroy a small city. More importantly, it carried a crew that had learned to think like soldiers instead of merchants. Approaching the target, her navigator reported. The man had been hauling grain between colonies 6 months ago. Now he was calculating attack vectors and escape routes. The Vrek supply base hung in space near a gas giant, a massive station that fed fuel and supplies to the alien fleets moving toward human worlds. It was defended by 6 Vrex fighters and a single cruiser. The aliens expected no trouble from this quiet corner of space. They were wrong. Yoonji's convoy hit the base from 3 different directions at once. The converted cargo ships moved in, patterns that no military academy had ever taught, using tactics that came from years of navigating asteroid fields and avoiding space debris. They fought like truck drivers and delivery pilots, which meant they fought dirty and smart. The Vrex fighters tried to respond, but they had trained to fight other military ships that followed predictable patterns. Yoonji's people moved like civilians who were very angry and very determined. They used the gas giant's gravity well to slingshot around attacks, hid behind the station's own structures, and coordinated their movements with the kind of precision that came from years of working together in dangerous conditions. In 12 minutes, the supply base was destroyed. The Vrex cruiser managed to send a distress signal before Yoonji's people reduced it to scrap metal and floating debris. Base destroyed, Yoonji reported to Jiho Lee. No human casualties, proceeding to secondary target. Jiho smiled as he received the report. 3 more raids had succeeded that day. A pattern was emerging, and it was not what anyone had expected. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They thought they were fighting the humans they knew from diplomatic meetings and trade negotiations, peaceful people who solved problems with words and patience. Instead, they were fighting humans who had decided that words had failed and patience was no longer an option. On the agricultural world of New Seoul, farmer Dong-hyun Kang looked up at the stars and knew that in 3 days, alien ships would appear in his sky. The Vrex had announced their intention to claim his world and relocate everyone who lived there. Dong-hyun was 61 years old. He had been farming on New Seoul for 35 years, had raised 3 children in the house he built with his own hands, and had buried his wife in the family plot behind the apple orchard she had loved. He was not leaving. Neither was anyone else. The entire planet had become a fortress. Farming equipment had been converted into weapons. Irrigation systems became defensive networks. Even the orbital grain elevators were now missile launchers disguised as agricultural facilities. Status report from Sector 7 called out Mayor Jin Woo, who had once managed crop rotations and was now coordinating planetary defense. Ready? Dong-hyun replied. We have 40 modified harvesters in position, plus 200 civilians with hunting rifles and mining charges. All across New Seoul, similar reports came in. Teachers had become communication specialists, doctors had become field medics, children had been evacuated to underground shelters that farmers had dug using the same equipment they once used to plant crops. Dr. Soo-jin Cho's voice came through the planetary communication system. Vrex fleet detected at the edge of the system. They will arrive in 18 hours, transmitting shield frequency data and weak point analysis to all defensive positions. Dong-hyun checked his weapon one more time. It had been built from parts of his old tractor, his son's mining laser, and salvaged components from a dozen other machines. It would fire once, maybe twice before breaking down, but that might be enough. This is Jiho Lee speaking to all human forces, came the broadcast from the Lunar Command Center. In 18 hours, we find out what we're really made of. The aliens think they know us. They think we're soft because we chose peace. They think we're weak because we were kind. The broadcast paused for a moment. They are about to learn the difference between choosing not to fight and not knowing how to fight. Every human world, every human ship, every human heart beats with the same message today. This is our home. These are our people, and we will not be moved. Across the galaxy, millions of humans prepared for the battles that would define their species' future. They were farmers and miners, doctors and teachers, cargo pilots and colonial administrators. None of them had wanted this war. But war had come to them, and they were about to show the galaxy why the ancient keepers had warned everyone never to give humans a reason to fight. The sleeping giant was not just stirring anymore. It was wide, awake, and it was very, very angry. The first battle of what historians would later call the Human War began at 0347 hours, Galactic Standard Time, in orbit around New Sol. The Rex fleet arrived exactly when Dr. Sujin Cho had predicted, 52 ships dropping out of hyperspace, in perfect formation. Admiral Vextar, commander of the Vrex battle fleet, looked at his tactical display with satisfaction. Below him was a peaceful agricultural world, populated by farmers and their families. His intelligence report said the humans had no military ships, no orbital defenses, and no experience with real warfare. The intelligence reports were wrong. The first indication of trouble came when his lead cruiser exploded. One moment it was scanning the planet's surface, the next it was a ball of expanding plasma and debris. Admiral Vextar stared at his display in shock. What happened? He clicked at his tactical officer. Unknown, sir. Something hit the shield gap during rotation cycle. Impossible shot from planetary surface. On New Sol, Farmer Donghyun Kang lowered his improvised weapon and smiled grimly. Dr. Cho's calculations had been perfect. Point 3. Seconds was enough time if you knew exactly when to fire. Reloading, called out his neighbor, a woman who had been growing rice until 3 weeks ago. Next shot in 47 seconds. All across the planet, similar weapons opened fire. Not the massive guns that military worlds would have, but hundreds of smaller weapons that fired at precisely the right moment to slip through Vrex shields. The aliens had never faced anything like it. Admiral Vexitar watched in growing horror as 3 more of his ships died in the first 10 minutes. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had studied. They were not trying to win a glorious battle. They were trying to kill his ships as efficiently as possible. All fighters attack the surface installations, he ordered. Find these weapons and destroy them. That was when the second surprise came. The converted cargo ships and mining vessels that had been hiding behind New Sol's moons suddenly appeared, moving in attack formations that looked nothing like standard military tactics. Jiho Lee had studied every major battle in galactic history. He knew how different species fought, what formations they used, what tactics they expected to face. So he threw all of that knowledge away and created something new. His ships moved like a pack of hunting animals, each one covering the others while they struck at weak points in the Vrex formation. They used the planet's gravity well, its moons, even pieces of space debris as weapons and shields. They fought like humans who had learned warfare not from military academies, but from decades of dangerous work in space. Captain Yoonji Nam led the first attack wing, her modified cargo ship dancing between Vrex fighters like a dancer avoiding clumsy partners. Her crew had been moving freight through asteroid fields for years. Dodging slow alien fighters was almost easy in comparison. Target the command ship, she called out to her wing. Use the debris field from the first cruiser as cover. Her ship swept in low, using the expanding cloud of metal and plasma to hide their approach. The Vrex expected them to attack from above, following standard military doctrine. Instead, they came from below and behind, firing everything they had at the enemy flagship's weakest points. Admiral Vexitar felt his ship shake under the impact of human weapons. Impossible. These were civilian vessels with improvised armaments. They should not have been able to penetrate his armor. But Dr. Sujin Cho had not just identified shield weaknesses. She had also found the structural flaws in Vrex ship design, the places where their armor was thinnest, where their power conduits were most vulnerable. Every human ship carried her analysis, and every human pilot knew exactly where to aim. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vrex fleet was gone. 52 ships had been reduced to debris and radiation. The humans had lost 11 vessels and had taken damage to many others, but they had won. More importantly, they had sent a message. News of the victory at New Sol spread across the galaxy faster than the official reports. The Galactic Council had expected to hear that human resistance had been crushed quickly and efficiently. Instead, they learned that an entire alien battle fleet had been destroyed by farmers and cargo pilots. General Crix received the report in his command center on the Virex homeworld. He read it 3 times before accepting what it said. A complete battle fleet destroyed by converted civilian ships and improvised planetary weapons. This is impossible, he clicked to his tactical advisors. Humans have no military tradition. They are soft traders and farmers. Perhaps, replied his second-in-command carefully. We were wrong about what kind of farmers they are. The Vrex were not the only ones learning hard lessons. On the crystal world of the Netherians, their High Council was receiving similar reports from their own military commanders. The human cargo ship convoy destroyed our supply base at Kepler Station, chimed their military advisor. All defending ships were lost. The humans suffered no casualties. How is this possible? The council leader asked. It was defended by experienced military crews. The humans did not fight like military crews, Honored One. They fought like hunters, like predators who had been patient for a long time and were no longer willing to wait. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated itself. Alien fleets that had expected easy victories found themselves facing enemies who fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive cunning that they had never encountered before. The Corvin attack on New Daegu ended with half their fleet crippled by human ships that used the system's asteroid belt like a 3-dimensional maze, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before the aliens could respond. The Yilani discovered that their tree-like biology made them vulnerable to human chemical weapons that had been developed from agricultural pesticides and industrial solvents. The smaller species that had joined the feeding frenzy found their ships being hunted by human raiders who seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating efficiency, and vanish back into the darkness of space. But it was not just military victories that shocked the galaxy. It was the speed and completeness of human adaptation. Dr. Sujin Cho had become the most important person in human space. Her research station now coordinated analysis from hundreds of other scientists and engineers. Every day brought new discoveries about alien weaknesses, new weapons designs, new tactical innovations. The Zenthi use biological computers, she reported to Jiho Lee during one of their daily briefings. I have developed a virus that can infect their ship systems through their communication networks. One transmission and their entire fleet becomes helpless. How long to deploy? Jiho asked. It is already deployed. I sent it hidden in a diplomatic message 3 hours ago. The Zenthi fleet moving on New Incheon should be dead in space by now. Jiho smiled. In 3 weeks, humans had gone from peaceful diplomats to the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen, not because they were naturally violent, but because they were naturally adaptive. Min Ho-jung coordinated the industrial transformation from his command center on Haven. Every day, human manufacturing capacity grew. Factories that made farming equipment in the morning were producing warship components by evening. Miners who extracted metals for construction were now gathering materials for weapons. Production report, he called out to his staff. We have converted 85% of our industrial capacity to military production, reported his chief engineer. We are now building ships faster than we are losing them in battle. That was the key difference that the aliens had not understood. Most species prepared for war slowly, building up military capacity over years or decades. Humans had converted their entire civilization to a war footing in a matter of weeks. They had done it before, in their ancient history on Earth. Now they were doing it again on a galactic scale. The alien species that had voted to redistribute human territories found themselves fighting not just human military forces, but human ingenuity, human determination, and human rage. Captain Yoonji Nam led increasingly bold raids deep into alien territory. Her cargo ship pilots had become the most feared raiders in the galaxy, striking supply lines and communication nodes with surgical precision. Farmer Dong Hyun Kang found himself promoted to colonel in the New Seoul Planetary Defense Force. His improvised weapons had been so effective that other worlds were copying his designs. Elder Tae Min Park returned from his failed diplomatic mission, to find that diplomacy was no longer needed. The aliens who had dismissed human concerns just weeks earlier were now desperately trying to contact him, begging for negotiations. He ignored their messages. In the deep space monitoring station where the ancient keepers watched the galaxy, old reptilian beings observed the spreading conflict with a mixture of sadness and grim satisfaction. The young races have learned, the eldest keeper said to his companions, but the lesson has cost them much. Could it have been avoided? Asked a younger keeper. We tried to warn them, the elder replied. We told them never to give humans a reason to fight. They chose not to listen. On the screen before them, star maps showed the spreading war. Red symbols marked alien defeats. Blue symbols showed human victories. The pattern was clear and growing stronger each day. The galaxy was learning why the keepers had tried to warn them. But some lessons can only be learned through pain, and this lesson was far from over. 6 months after the Galactic Council had voted to redistribute human territories, the galaxy was a very different place. The grand chamber where representatives from hundreds of worlds once gathered was now nearly empty. Most of the seats sat, vacant, their former occupants either dead, fled to distant stars, or hiding in whatever safe places they could find. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked slowly through the empty corridors toward the council chamber. His footsteps echoed in the silence. 6 months ago, he had been a diplomatic representative trying to prevent a war. Now he was something else entirely. Now he spoke for the dominant military power in known space. Behind him walked Commander Jiho Lee, no longer a young military attaché but the supreme commander of human forces across the galaxy. His uniform was simple and practical. Nothing like the ornate military dress of other species. He did not need decorations to show his authority. Everyone knew who he was and what he had accomplished. General Min Ho-jung accompanied them, his weathered face showing the strain of coordinating the industrial transformation of human civilization. In 6 months, he had overseen the conversion of an entire species from peaceful colonists to the most efficient war machine the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Yoonji Nam was there too, her cargo hauler captain's jacket now decorated with the insignia of the human raider fleet. Her pilots had become legends, striking deep into enemy territory and crippling alien supply lines with surgical precision. The few remaining alien representatives sat in their designated areas, but they looked nothing like the confident beings who had voted to take human world 6 months earlier. General Crix of the Vrex sat with his head down, his once proud insect features dulled by defeat. The Netherian council member no longer chimed with musical confidence. Even the four-armed Corvin delegate kept all his hands folded, no longer gesturing with the arrogance he had once displayed. Only the keepers remained unchanged. The ancient reptilian beings sat in their corner, watching with eyes that had seen this pattern play out across the centuries. Their eldest representative, the same one who had tried to warn the council 6 months ago, rose slowly to speak. Ginthir, young races gather again, the keeper said, his ancient voice carrying clearly through the nearly empty chamber. But this time, they come not as equals, but as the conquered seeking mercy from their conquerors. Hyunwoo Kim took his place at the central podium, the same spot where he had once pleaded for peaceful resolution. The galaxy had not listened then. Now it had no choice but to listen. 6 months ago, Hyunwoo began, his voice calm but carrying an edge that had not been there before. You voted to take our homes. You decided that human peace meant human weakness. You chose to see our restraint as an invitation to take whatever you wanted. He paused, looking around the nearly empty chamber. The Yao, Keeper Elder, tried to warn you. He told you that you were making a mistake. He explained that humans were not weak because we chose peace, but dangerous because we chose restraint. Hyunwoo's eyes fixed on General Crix. You laughed at his warning. The silence in the chamber was complete. Let me tell you what your mistake has cost, Hyunwoo continued. The Vrex Empire, which once controlled 47 star systems, now holds 12. Your battle fleets, which you claimed were the finest in the galaxy, exist only as debris fields and scrap metal. General Crix did not look up. The Netherian crystal worlds, proud of their ancient culture and advanced technology, have seen half their colonies evacuated. Your crystal cities lie dark, their songs silenced by human electronic warfare. The Netherian representative's crystalline form had lost much of its luster. The Corvin Federation discovered that 4 arms are not better than 2 when facing human tactics. 23 of your worlds have surrendered. Your floating cities have fallen from the sky. Hyunwoo turned to address the chamber as a whole. 17 species joined the vote to redistribute human territories. 3 of those species no longer exist as galactic powers. 8 others have lost more than half their territory to human forces. The rest are here today to beg for mercy. Commander Ji-ho. Lee stepped forward. The numbers tell the story clearly. In 6 months of warfare, human forces have fought over 300 battles. We have lost 37. The rest were victories, many of them complete annihilations of enemy forces. He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red areas marked former alien territories now under human control. Blue areas showed remaining human space. The red areas were much larger than they had been 6 months ago. This was not supposed to happen, Ji-ho continued. You studied our history and saw only that we had been peaceful for a century. You ignored the other part of our history, the part that showed what happens when humans decide that peace is no longer possible. Dr. Su Jin Cho's voice came through the communication system from her research station. She had become too valuable to risk in face-to-face meetings, but her influence was felt across the galaxy. The technological advantages you thought you possessed have proven illusory, her voice reported. Human adaptability and innovation have overcome every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical doctrine you employed. We learned faster than you could adapt. General Min Ho-jung spoke next, his voice carrying the weight of industrial might that had transformed the balance of power in the galaxy. Our production capacity now exceeds the combined manufacturing ability of all remaining alien civilizations. We build ships faster than you can destroy them. We produce weapons more advanced than anything in your arsenals. We have become what you forced us to become. The Keeper Elder rose again, his ancient form commanding attention even in this changed galaxy. I have lived for 800 years, he said. I have watched 17 species rise to galactic dominance. I have seen 12 of them fall to human expansion. Each time the pattern was the same. Each time they made the same mistake you made. He looked directly at the surviving alien representatives. They gave humans a reason to fight. The silence stretched for long moments before Hyunwoo Kim spoke again. We did not want this war. We offered you friendship, trade, cooperation. We shared our discoveries and helped during disasters. We asked for nothing but the right to live peacefully on the worlds we had made into homes. His voice grew colder. You repaid our friendship with theft. You answered our cooperation with conquest. You saw our peace as weakness, and our kindness as an opportunity to take what belonged to us. The few remaining alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But we are not here today for revenge, Hyunwoo continued, and some hope flickered in alien eyes. We are here to establish a new order, one that will prevent this from happening again. Commander Ji-ho Lee stepped forward with a document that would reshape galactic civilization. The terms are simple, he announced. All human territories taken or claimed during this conflict will remain under human control. All surviving alien civilizations will reduce their military forces to defensive levels only. All interstellar trade will be conducted under human oversight. All disputes between species will be mediated by human arbitrators. General Crix finally looked up. And if we refuse? Ji-ho Lee's expression did not change. Then we will continue the war until there is nothing left to refuse with. The reality was clear to everyone in the chamber. Humanity now possessed the largest fleet, the most advanced technology, and the most efficient military organization in the galaxy. They had proven in 6 months of warfare that they could defeat any opponent. Captain Yoonji Nam spoke for the EU. First time, her voice carrying the practical wisdom of someone who had seen the war from the front lines. You wanted to redistribute our worlds because you thought we could not stop you. Now our worlds have grown to include yours. The redistribution you voted for has happened, just not the way you planned. Elder Taemin Park, who had returned from his failed diplomatic mission to find his people transformed into galactic conquerors, rose slowly from his seat. "I am an old man," he said, his voice carrying sadness mixed with resolve. "I spent my life believing that reason and kindness could solve any problem. You tested that belief and found it wanting, but you also awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for a century." He looked around the chamber at the faces of species that had once dismissed human concerns. "We remember now what we are capable of when diplomacy fails. We remember what we become when our homes are threatened and our families are in danger. You reminded us that the galaxy is not a safe place for those who cannot defend themselves." The voting was swift and unanimous. Every surviving alien representative agreed to the new galactic order. They had no choice. The alternative was the continuation of a war they could not win. As the session ended and the few remaining delegates filed out, the Keeper Elder approached Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim. "You have won completely," the ancient being said. "The question now is what you will do with victory." Hyunwoo considered the question carefully. "We will do what we have always done. We will build. We will explore. We will learn. But we will also remember this lesson." "And what lesson is that?" "That peace is not the absence of the capacity for war. Peace is the choice not to use that capacity. The galaxy forgot the difference. We will make sure it remembers." The Keeper nodded slowly. "Perhaps there is wisdom in this new order after all." As Hyunwoo Kim walked through the empty corridors of what had once been the Galactic Council, he thought about the farmer Dong-hyun Kang, now back tending his fields on New Seoul, but with weapons hidden in his barn. He thought about Dr. Soo-jin Cho, who had returned to peaceful research, but kept detailed files on every known alien technology. He thought about Captain Yoonji Nam, hauling cargo again but with ships that could become warships at a moment's notice. Humanity had won the war, but the victory came with a price. They could never again be the innocent, trusting species they had been. They would remain peaceful, but it would be the peace of the strong protecting what they had built, not the peace of the weak hoping others would leave them alone. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans were truly capable of when pushed beyond their limits. Now it knew. The lesson had been written in the wreckage of alien fleets and the silence of empty worlds. And everyone, human and alien alike, would remember why the elders had warned them never to give humans a reason to fight.